Oh, Abraham, my chavrusa. Thank you for joining, Abraham. All right. Start with music, right?
Yes. Strike up the band.
Again, I'm getting nervous again. Oh. Okay. So the whole parsha this week is about the sin of the golden calf. Most of the parsha is the sin of the golden calf, the result, the consequences, and the rectification of the sin of the golden calf. Even in the beginning of the parsha, which talks about the mitzvah of giving the half coin, even that is also about fixing the sin of the golden calf. As it says in the Torah, you should give the half coin. Why should you give the half coin? To be an atonement for yourself. That means you need something, there's some issue, and the purpose of giving the half coin is to rectify this issue. What issue is it? The issue is the sin of the golden calf. There's actually a hint in the Gemara how we see the half coin is associated with the sin of the golden calf. It says that the word machatzis is related to the idea of the half of the day. Moshe Rabbeinu was told the Jewish people is coming back in 40 days. So they thought they counted wrong, and they thought the 40 days started from the day that he left. And really, that wasn't a full day. And so when they came midday, Moshe left. They said, "Bashesh, half the day has come. He hasn't arrived yet." So therefore, they said, "Okay, he's not coming back." Especially because the Satan showed them the image of Moshe's casket, and Moshe passed away. So they were sure that he wasn't coming back. Bashesh. There's also another thing the Gemara says about the half coin, that the half coin has in it 6 other coins, which is and which represents the 6th hour of the day. So either way, so we see that the whole entire parsha is about the sin of the golden calf. There are actually 3 things. It's a long parsha. Let's talk about 3 things in the parsha, which are about rectification, way to fix this issue, and not just this issue, but all issues. The first is the tzur. It says like this. Later on, the parsha talks about the Hashem appeared to Moshe Rabbeinu with 13 attributes of mercy. Before Hashem appears to Moshe Rabbeinu, and Hashem. The whole story, how Hashem passed before Moshe, says Hashem told Moshe, "I want to put you into a rock." So put you into a rock. It's one concept. And the Torah says that later on the Torah talks about a covenant that Hashem made with Moshe, with us and Hashem. And the beginning of the parsha talks about the half coin. So these 3 concepts, the half coin, the rock, and the half shekel, are all associated with the idea of forgiveness for the sin of the golden calf. So how are they really? What's the meaning of the rock? What's the meaning of the half coin? And what's the meaning of the bris, of the covenant? Let's start with the rock. In order to produce a fire, before we get to atonement, let's define the word atonement. Kapara in Hebrew doesn't just mean that you don't get punished. Kapara means that you're forgiven. That whatever issue there was, whatever shmutz, whatever negative thing is there, it's washed off. That's not kapara. It's washed off. Kinuach, lichlach chachet. Hashem washes off whatever negative thing that's there. So, in order to wash off whatever negative thing is there, the only way that's possible is because of something deeper that wasn't affected. You can't atone for the sin of the golden calf if the blemish went through and through. The reason why it's possible to atone for it, to clean it off, is because there's a part of us that wasn't affected by the sin of the golden calf. The reason why there could be kapara is because there's something wholesome. I don't know if the story is true. I believe the point of the story is true. I heard that the previous Rebbe once asked advice from his teacher, the Rashbat, when he was a child. Rashbat was a great genius. He was a teacher of the Marash, of Rashab, and the Friedrich Rebbe. He lived in Reb Shmuel Tzal Esterman. And the way I heard the story was, the Frierdiker Rebbe asked him, I don't know where to start. He had some issue, doesn't know where to start. So he told the Frierdiker Rebbe, start with what's healthy. And with what's healthy, you can fix with that which is not healthy. Start off with what's healthy. So in a similar way, in order to cause kapara, to wash off anything negative, the first step is there has to be the first step to wash off anything negative. You have to reach the part of yourself where there is no negativity in the first place. When you reach the part of yourself where there's no negativity, then the part that's still pure and wholesome, from that part of the neshama, which hasn't been affected, which hasn't been tainted, that's how you're able to cleanse the rest of it. So that's the general theme. And in that theme has three parts. And one part is the idea of the rock. It says that in order to produce a fire, to produce a fire, you have two things. Number one is you have to have fuel. The second thing, in order to produce a fire, you have to make sure it's not wet. Whatever your fuel is to the fire, it can't be wet. If it's wet, then it won't burn. So in a similar way, Hashem gave us fuel for our godly fire. Hashem wants us to be a vessel for godly fire. I'm parents. You want a coffee? It's kosher today.
I have no dysfunction.
All right.
So we're good.
So there is the fuel for the fire of mitzvahs. He puts on film. He keeps Shabbos. He keeps kosher. The mitzvahs, a positive mitzvah Hashem gives us. That's something that contains. That's something else to hold Hashem's godly fire. That's the fuel. Besides the fuel, they also make sure that things don't get wet. That's the purpose of 365 negative mitzvahs. The Leis Hasei means we shouldn't make anything that will disturb the mitzvahs from the house in God's fire. The Hashem is called a consuming fire. But I wish you knew remember the details of the story, told you properly. One chassid, he saw the Rebbe Rashab running around with his brother the Razah. And I don't know if it was his father who mentioned his discourse, and or maybe it was Rebbe Rashab himself mentioned that a Jew is a consuming fire. Hashem is a consuming fire. So the guy was really interested in the Rebbe Rashab's take on this. So he grabbed the Rebbe Rashab, was a little kid running around, and he said, "So how come I don't get burnt? If you're a sheikh, how come burnt?" He said, "What do you mean? You're in a neshama too. Fire doesn't consume fire." But this, if you ask me, I'll send you the story later. Anyways, so a Jew has a fire, and he's able to contain the fire of Hashem. So that mitzvahs, the positive mitzvahs, they're able to bring us the light of Hashem. And by keeping the Leis Hasei, but not doing the negative commandments, we're able to make sure that the fire doesn't get wet. These two conditions for fire only apply with most things. But there's something that does need to have fuel. Doesn't matter if it's wet. What is that? That's a flintstone. A flintstone, even if it's in water for thousands of years, and without any fuel, if you strike it, it will produce a spark. So what that means spiritually is that there's a part of a Jew which is not affected by the water, which means the Averis. A part of a Jew which is even amidst the mitzvah, you don't have the fuel. There's still a part of you which is whole, which is pure, and that's where the kapara comes from. That's where the Hashem is able to wash off all negative things that are there externally, because we have this deeper flintstone connection with Hashem. That's why the Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu after the sin of the golden calf, he told him to go b'nikras hatzur, to go into the rock. It says, "Habitu el tzur chotzavtem." Look in the rock that you're a hun from. Meaning, what Hashem is telling us is that you shouldn't look at your external way things are externally. You should look at the rock you come from. Look at your core. Don't judge yourself by the way things are external. Look at your core. It's a beautiful teaching. I heard from Rabbi Yale. I don't know where this comes from. Gemara says that if someone sells the fruit of a tree, the tree hasn't produced any fruit yet. But if I sell you the fruit of a tree, the tree hasn't yet produced a fruit. The halacha is that you don't acquire the fruit. Although you give me the money and we agreed on the transaction, it doesn't work. Why not? Because the mayor says, you're not to acquire something that does not exist. since you can't acquire something that doesn't exist, since there's no fruit yet here, you can't acquire it. However, if you buy the tree for its fruit, you don't buy the actual tree, just buy the tree for its ability to produce fruit, so then the halacha is that you do acquire the fruit as well. Even though it doesn't make sense, why would you buy the tree for? Why buy the tree? The whole purpose of the tree is the fruit. So you don't really want the tree, you want the fruit. And yet, if you buy the tree, you get the fruit too. You look at the goal, your goal is to get the fruit. You don't get the tree, you don't get anything. We'll say like this: there is the fruit. The fruit is like in this analogy before, it's the fuel, it's a mitzvah. So you look at your life and you say, listen, I need to fix stuff up. And to fix up this and to fix up that. If you look at your life that way, you're never going to get anywhere. Never going to get anywhere. It's things don't exist yet. You look at your life and you want to fix things and change things. And I want to do this A, B, and B. And you look at yourself as deficient, you're missing something, you're not really going to get far. In order to get anywhere in life, your first step has to be, you have to look at the tree. I mean, looking at the tree is, you look at who you are, your essence. Look at the flintstone. Look where you come from. Look at, you come from Avitz and Yaakov. Look at your core. If you look at your core and you realize that you're a neshama, you're part of Hashem, and you're whole and you're pure, if you realize that, and then you get the mitzvahs as well. Mitzvahs will come. You can't begin to start fixing up your life by starting just with the fruit. It's too cumbersome, and it's too much minutia, and you're going to lose passion, and it's Davar Shalom doesn't exist yet, and we procrastinate. As we discussed yesterday, the Fabring and different reasons people procrastinate. They procrastinate because they think that they're not going to really make it, not really going to be successful. But
I just have to admit, I have a problem with procrastination. I don't want to talk about it right now. So.
I just want to point my grandfather, he once gave a shir with 10 days of tshuva, and every single person who's by his class came over to me individually. This rabbi, I know you're talking about me. So procrastination is something that Jews.
I told my therapist, doctor, everybody hates me. It's impossible. Everyone doesn't know you yet.
Anyway, so people procrastinate because of perfectionism. They feel they're not at the same level as everybody else, and they feel if they try, they're going to be inadequate. So why should they invest? Or they procrastinate because they feel if they're successful, it's going to mess up their life. So they change their life too much. So the first step is comfortable. The thing we need to address first of all is that you have the tree. You have a part of yourself which is whole. That's step number one. Once you know you have the tree, you know who you are, and the fruit's going to come as well. Like it. So that's the first concept. Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, look at the rock. Then there's the second concept. Second concept, Hashem says, the Moshe is the bris. In those days, the way they made a covenant between people was like this. They'll take a cow, like the bris by Abraham Avinu. They take a cow, they cut the cow in half, and the people who made the covenant between each other would walk between the two halves of the cow. What does that mean? People want to connect themselves to each other, they should take a string and tie a string. They should take glue. Why are they cutting something in half? Why are they separating? The whole point is they want to show they're connected to each other. What's the point of separating? Why do they separate? The answer is like this. What's the meaning of a bris? What's the real meaning people make a covenant? Covenant means people love each other. People love each other. And they have reasons why they love each other. But it's possible there'll be other stronger reasons that could make the love stop. So guarding yourself, there's no issue. Why is no issue regarding love for yourself? Because every person's love for themselves. And the love we have for ourselves obscures all of our faults. Because we love ourselves so much, we don't notice our faults so much. Our faults are negligible to us. We're able to live with ourselves. Like you're saying about, no one knows me yet. Because you know yourself, you know yourself, your faults more than anybody else, but we're still able to live with ourselves. Why can we live with ourselves? Because Hashem made us this inborn self-love, and it's a healthy psychological thing, in order we should handle all of our faults. So that's what the mitzvah of Sisa actually is. It's obviously so. The Tzemach Tzedek writes is to love another person the same way you love yourself, and so you're able to ignore their faults as well. Also, you can live with yourself, you can live with someone else. For yourself, you always say, it wasn't that I'm an obnoxious beast. It just was today. I was tired. My daughter showed me yesterday on Amazon. They sold this thing called a tantrum card. A tantrum card. It's very cute. You're right. Please excuse me because it says a bunch of different things. I didn't sleep. I was angry. I was anxious. I was hungry. And for doing because it's cute what to see. Anyways, so people could also be afraid that their love for each other dissipate because of various reasons. So therefore, they make a covenant with each other. What's the Eva covenant? The Eva covenant is that they'll always love each other. Why could they always love each other? Why would that love always stay? The reason love will stay is because they agree to become one. They agree to not look at each other as separate, but become one with each other, become one being. So that's the idea of the two halves of the cup. The thing that they're dividing in half is actually one. It may be divided in two pieces, but it's intrinsically one. In a similar way, they're walking between this and saying, although we are both individual people, but nevertheless, we're making this promise to each other that we're going to look at each other as actually one, and we're not going to look at each other as separate people. So that's the meaning of Hashem's atonement to the Jewish people. Again, in the second item in this parasha, we see this idea of Hashem forgives us because of the bris. The idea of a bris means that Yisrael, that Hashem, the Jewish people are one. Because Hashem, the Jewish people are one, therefore Hashem forgives us. The forgiveness comes because of the emes, the truth that's revealed in this bris that a Yid and a Yid are one. And there is the first element really in the parsha. The third element of mentioning is the idea of the half shekel. The Torah introduces a half shekel in a very unusual way. The Torah says, you should know, there's something called a whole shekel. And a whole shekel is made up of 20 smaller coins called gera. And if you divide it in half, you'll get 10 gera. And now you give half a shekel to Hashem, and that will be an atonement. The Torah could have said, everybody give 10 gera. The Torah doesn't say. The Torah says, you should know there's such a thing called the whole shekel. And you should give a half. And the half is a half of 20. There's 20 is the whole, and you're giving half. What's the point of that? The Torah is teaching us the currency of ancient times. What's the point? Again, it's for that. So when we say till now, we understand the idea. How could there be a kapara? What's the meaning of an atonement? The meaning of atonement is that you realize that you and the Eibush are one. That the two halves are the Yid and the Eibush. That's why it says that there's 10 gera. There's 10 smaller coins. In each of these halves, the 10 smaller coins represent the 10 spheres. Every person has within himself 10 soul powers, 3 intellectual soul powers, 7 emotional soul powers. So the idea of realizing that you have 10 gera, that means is that you realize that you are a half without the Eibush, that you are one with Hashem. That's the first step in atonement. First step in atonement is realizing that you're one with the Eibush, and therefore your essence is godly, your essence is holy. Go ahead.
That was a mistake of there, and the revelation of Har Sinai, they felt complete. And that was a downfall. But when you didn't say, remember, the Ma'amar, you only have, the Hashem completes us. And Har Sinai, they said, been there, done that. You know that expression?
Interesting.
You know, I saw Hashem, Yitzhak.
Where'd you hear that? I heard that. Very interesting. Please send me to the Go ahead.
I had the great good fortune of, in addition to learning from you, learning from some great thinkers, and Aryeh Kaplan was my Rav for about 6 years in the early 80s. We were talking about the Brit, and he talking about Breshit. So he said that the board everybody knows is that Isha without the Yud and the Hey, it's fire, they burn up. He flipped it on his head. He said it's the Aish, it's the passion that makes the cleave for the Yud and the Hey. It makes you love it. So if you put Aish with Brit, it's Breshit, that's creation.
Wow.
Go figure.
Nice. So it's not just enough to promise, you're saying. There has to be some fire there too. That makes sense.
Yes,
That's a first step. That's gracious. That's a gracious. Nice. Wow. Beautiful. You just flipped my head over. That's really cool.
It's great. You know what? Is it when you have the
way the Martin just said? It says Isha Zacha, they merit to have a shinu with that. It's a Yud and a Hey. They have the merit, they have the Yud, they have a shinu, Yud and the Hey. So you're saying that Aryeh Kaplan said that it's the Aish, it's the fire that they have for each other. The vessel for the Yud and the Hey is the fire.
Right.
So We could have only fire. That's a problem. But,
Right. Too much of a good thing.
That's the idea.
You can't live on a straight pepper diet. You use it as little, accents.
well, we have a doctor here, so we'll have to ask them. But straight pepper. No doctor. Okay, no pepper. Fine. Okay. So the reason the Torah again says that you have to give a half shekel. But then earlier on the Torah talks for the gift of Eliezer to Rivka. It says give also a beka, and a beka is, it says in the Rashi, it's a hint to the half coin. This bracelet he gave is a hint to the half coin. But over there it doesn't say what a whole coin is and divides it in half. The Torah specifically is emphasizing, is telling us that he has to feel he's half that Hashem. And this is where the kapara comes from. You have a kapara because you and Hashem are one. It's not that you're doing something godly, doing something holy that connects to Hashem. That you have a part of Hashem in you, and you are only like more than shutfus. Shutfus means actually there's a question about a partnership. Two people are partners in the field. One opinion is that each of them owns 50% of the field, doesn't know where the 50% starts or where it stops. Other opinion is that each of them has a joint ownership of every molecule of the field. But according to both of those explanations, there's still the separation. There's still two different partners. The idea of the half shekel is that what it means really is that even Hashem are one. That as it says in the Sisa Maggid said a famous word. It says Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, make for yourself 2 trumpets. 2 trumpets means 2 shtei chatzoy tzuris. Mr. Shemagat said the 2 trumpets can also be read as 2 half images. There was a Jew who told me this morning that Hashem has his picture in his photo album, but it's a group picture. Hashem has everyone's picture in his photo album. But I disagree. I say, no, it's not a group picture. Hashem only has your picture in his photo album. And how is that only has your picture and only has my picture? Okay, the Eibishter is a Polyachim. Every is Baal Shem Tov said that Hashem loves every Jew and only child even more. So the idea of a half of a form means that a Jew is not just doing kindness and he's connecting with God's kindness. So the word is that as Mr. Maggid writes in the beginning of both of his Sfarim, in Maggid Rav Yaakov and their Torah, but Mr. Maggid writes and emphasized that it's the way he starts both of his Sfarim. He writes that just like a father has the image of his son engraved in his mind, so to the Eibishter has every Yid before he's born engraved in the Eibishter's, so to speak, mind. There's a surah. So therefore, Yid feels he is half a form. He is not complete without Hashem. He is one with Hashem. And that's why the Eibishter forgives us for the sin of the golden calf and for all sins, because it's not that Hashem forgives us. It's that there's a part of us that doesn't need forgiveness. And that when that part is revealed, as it is in through Shuvah, and as we learn in this Parsha, through the half shekel, and through the rock, and through the covenant, this causes the kapara, and it's revealed, and the Eibush forgives us and brings us all the brachas of Shem. Yeah, we have 2 more minutes to say l'chaim to Reb Zev Kessler on his upcoming birthday. Chaim Reb Zev, bracha v'atzlocha l'yanim. Chaim.
Chaim.
When's the Farbrengen? I'll take the next
Maybe
time.
I gotta talk to the wife. But if we do it at shul, I guess it's shul. But
Chaim l'chaim.
Chaim l'bracha. Chaim David.
Chaim.
we'll be in touch.
Can we stop? Any questions? Okay, stop now.